Fox Corporation will now pay more than $787 million to settle the defamation suit filed by Dominion Voting Systems. A Fox News host read out a statement from the network after the settlement.
I do have a statement from Fox, Neil. We are pleased to have reached a settlement of our dispute with Dominion Voting Systems. We acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. The settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards.
That deal, very big deal, historic deal, reached right before the trial that would have detailed Fox News' spread of disinformation and election denialism, potentially creating further high-profile embarrassment for the network. Let's bring in former prosecutor and host of the Law and Crime Network, Robert Bianchi. So nice to see you this morning. This case, this deal, I mean, it is so big. Why do you think Fox News chose to settle this?
Well, I think Fox News was in a very difficult position. They had some pretrial rulings where the judge basically said they're going to argue very little defenses here, and they gave Dominion an incredible opportunity when they went to trial to prove less than what you typically would have to prove in a defamation case, because they're saying it's already been proven. There's no reason to bring this before the jury. The evidence is that strong. So that was a very, very powerful thing for Dominion. The only question, I think, for the Dominion attorneys would be, and in any civil case, you have to worry about this, you could win the case, you can lose the war. How much damages? How much would the jury actually award Dominion was the big question that was left open for both sides. But Dominion had Fox on their back, and that's why the settlement discussion started to take place. And you know what? There is nothing unusual that when the jury's being picked, and sometimes even after the trial begins, that one side says, you know what, we got to settle this case.
This is a very large settlement. There's no question. I mean, much has been made about how it's half of the $1.6 billion that Dominion was originally seeking, but this is a lot of money. But what about the full accountability? Did Dominion get the apology, the accountability that maybe was necessary here?
Well, listen, again, we have to put things in context of most civil suits. And in most civil suits, there's not a requirement that there's a quote unquote apology. What Dominion did here with that they had, which most people don't have, is during the discovery process. That isn't a place where you could take sworn depositions. They had all of these individuals come in. They got damning texts, damning emails, and basically they were allowed to ask any question in those depositions. Sometimes you get more information from a deposition because you're allowed to ask anything than a judge would actually allow at a trial. So Dominion already had a tremendous amount of data. In fact, it could maybe have gotten worse at trial. So they both had the ability to go to the court of public opinion and say, look at this. I mean, we've been covering this for weeks. Look at all these bad texts. Look at all these bad messages and emails. The only other point at that point was, how much money are we going to pay here? I don't think the trial would have made it any better for Dominion in terms of the facts. So yes, there's a level of accountability that occurred here and occurs in every civil case when a whopping amount of money has to be paid in order for Fox, in this instance, to get out from under what was already developed, and likely not much more would have been developed during the trial.
Let me ask you this. There are pending lawsuits against right-wing channels Newsmax, OAN, and Trump allies, including Rudy Giuliani and others. How does the settlement maybe with Fox affect these other lawsuits, if at all?
I mean, I don't know the particular facts of those lawsuits, but basically the claims that were being made with those other stations are the same. So I think it's going to send a message to the lawyers for those other individuals and those other companies to say, wow, if Fox had a collapse in the middle of this and pay that kind of money, we're going to have a problem here ourselves. And you know what? They have a lot less money to defend themselves than Fox had. So while it may not have a direct impact, I think it's going to, a lot of phones are going to be burning today with those lawyers saying, we got to get out of this.
And you make a very good point. You know, there's reputational damage and there's financial damage. And the reputational damage here to Fox is hard to measure, but it is also quite large, just like that settlement. Robert Bianchi, thank you so much. Nice to see you this morning.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up, a dire warning.